All right, in this video, we're going to talk about ecological succession. Now, in social studies, succession means to leave a country. The South seceded and all of that stuff of the world with the Civil War. But that's not what we're talking about here. Ecological succession is a series of more or less predictable events that occur in a community over time. It's how the makeup of the community, the types of living things that live in an area change over time. So as you go from barren rock to a mature forest, there's a series of stages. You go from the pioneer species, the first things that can tolerate these very harsh environments and create a little bit of soil and nutrients, to then you have these very cereal communities to end up with the climax community at the end typically. So here's kind of what it might look like in an area that would normally have a forest as its most stable environment. So succession begins in an area that has no remnants of an older community. The pioneer species are things like lichens and moss, things that can grow in bare rock and grow in glaciers, that can tolerate very harsh environments and start to break down the rock and create some soil and allow the next group of communities, the grasses and weeds, and then so on. As the soil gets thicker and richer, you get trees and so on and so on. And it's all due to this idea of tolerance and what things can tolerate. And then as one species improves the environment, it actually makes it less hospitable for itself and more hospitable for the next type of community. So the pioneer species are the first species that colonize a barren area. So primary succession happens with bare rock. Secondary succession happens in an area after a disturbance where not everything has been completely removed. The existing community isn't completely destroyed. A forest fire, a flood, a farmer coming in and growing crops for a while. Those types of things can cause secondary succession. So we used to talk a lot about this idea of this climax community. We said it was a specific, uniform, and stable community at the end of succession. However, recent research shows that climax communities are not always uniform and they're not always stable. So we're changing our idea of what the end result of succession is. So here's an example. We have secondary succession after a tidal wave has come through. You can have succession that happens after human-caused disturbances like growing crops, for instance. The changes that are made in the soil because of our activities oftentimes don't allow the community to go back to what it was before. It changes to something that's different.